Boom! That was a crispy volley. Oh, wait a minute. They're charging. They delivered a volley. This guy's going in for it. The other guy's reloading. He's not doing anything. He's not fighting back. He died. Roblox Napoleonic Wars is one of the most realistic battle simulators in gaming. No, this is not clickbait. This is not rage bait. I was not paid nor bribed to make this video. And I am going to actually break down exactly what makes this game so realistic, as well as showing you an actual battle from this game. And so before we get into explaining what mechanics of Roblox Napoleonic Wars make it so good, we need to first understand what even makes a battle simulator realistic and historically authentic, and why many games fail to do so. Let's say you want to create a game set in the Napoleonic Wars. Well, of course we first need period accurate uniforms and weaponry alongside period accurate maps, and at least some that captures the dynamics and feeling of a historical battlefield. And this is where most games stop with their historical realism. Give a bunch of players historically accurate guns and uniforms and throw them on an open map and boom, historical game. Now, games that do this aren't bad. That's not what I'm saying. Nor am I saying that games need to be realistic either, where the moment you download it, someone peppers your house with canister shot or something. What I mean by realism is the game's attempt to create an atmosphere and gameplay that has historical authenticity to it. This authenticity is what makes a game set in a historical setting unique, and not just a reskin of modern shooters. For example, what typically happens in a game which puts emphasis on historically accurate weaponry and uniforms, but with less emphasis on what mechanics allow for the gameplay to reflect that time period, would look something like this. The match begins. Players fire off a few shots at each other, and then a full-on melee ensues until the game ends. And typically, unless the terrain itself is altered, this is what happens game after game, match after match. Essentially the same gameplay over and over. And as a Napoleonic Wars enthusiast, which I'm assuming is also at least some of the target audience of these games, you might as well give everyone MP40s and disco ball grenades, because that's about as historical as a Napoleonic Wars battle that has people brawling in a mosh pit the entire time. Okay, that might be too harsh, but what I'm trying to say is that while a game does not have to be historically authentic to be fun, at least for me personally, and this is just speaking for myself here, when I launch a Napoleonic War game, I'm hoping it captures the atmosphere of the Napoleonic Wars. I don't think that's a crazy standard to have. And so if the players already have period accurate weaponry and gear and are on historically inspired maps, what is the missing piece that stops players from engaging in more historical combat? The answer is formations and morale. You see, most people in the Napoleonic Wars, or linear warfare for that matter, but I'll just focus on the Napoleonic Wars for this video, did not fight to the death. Beyond muskets and bayonets and cannons, it is morale alongside formations, which go hand in hand with morale, that is the deciding factor in Napoleonic warfare. Yes, your side having things like more artillery than the other side would most certainly boost the morale on your side, but if it was just a question of numbers and equipment, then Napoleon would have lost Austerlitz. Surprise those guns with cavalry when the time is right, and you can send this side with more men and equipment into a frenzied panic. In battle, the human element must never be ignored. If you watch my channel, which I extensively cover various military subjects, I say this constantly. The psychology of being in an environment where danger surrounds you and where you may be face to face with people that want to kill you and having no respawns in real life is a heavy psychological factor. Let me give a real historical example. Here is a cavalry charge. What do most people imagine? Two groups of men charging headfirst into each other, lances or sabers flashing while people and horses clash in a dramatic and violent fashion. What if I told you that isn't historical, or at least occurrences that I just described are rare? You see, when two groups of cavalry charge at each other, most of the time they don't crash together dramatically. Instead, one side either breaks before the impact even occurs, the side with less morale, or if none of these sides give, the horses nearing impact will stop themselves. Yes, there are numerous historical examples of this occurring. This is describing an encounter between British and French cavalry. Each side deployed along the traditional two lines and then advanced at the charge. But at the last moment, the two forces pulled up so that they stood facing one another. For a few moments, both groups were motionless until a French cavalryman made a swipe at the English rider opposite him. Immediately, everyone else plunged forward and a general melee ensued. And while this is an example where both sides resumed fighting after an awkward pause, many times one side lost morale and broke off before the other side could resume the combat. Now there are some ways that cavalrymen tried to mitigate this, such as locking knees with those around them and charging together, essentially giving the horses no option to veer left and right. As for the formation, the side that broke formation first is the side that typically lost. Cavalrymen in the Napoleonic Wars were taught to form up a little pass where the point of impact would be if they were victorious, rather than chasing down the routing enemy horsemen. And while it certainly still did happen, there is a reason why officers didn't want their men breaking formation, because doing so left you vulnerable to any countercharges as well as a breakdown in communication. In fact, during the Napoleonic Wars, French cavalry preferred to trot into enemy cavalry with weapons drawn rather than do gallop at full speed. The idea being that while charging at full speed did give the men more momentum as well as an intimidation factor, it also left the men staggered and with sloppier formations, and so a better trade-off is to lose that speed for the ability to maintain a solid formation when coming into contact with the enemy. Of course, assuming that the enemy was there to meet the trotting cavalrymen and didn't already break away. Do you see what I'm getting at here with my examples? Before a single saber is slashed in an engagement, a historical engagement, one side is usually already broken. Now, okay, yeah, it would be very boring if all the players in a video game just ran away from each other. So why am I bringing all of this up? Because when it comes to the behavior of combatants in history, in battle, equipment and weaponry alone doesn't determine how battles play out. It is morale and formations that ultimately shapes the linear battlefield. And so if you're designing a video game that wants to emphasize giving players a historically authentic battle experience, yes, having historically accurate uniforms and weapons is important, but if you neglect simulating the morale and the psychological factor of the soldiers on the battlefield, then the game will devolve into a Napoleonic themed mosh pit, because the players, unlike real people, have zero incentives to play in any way, shape, or form that reflects the realities of historical linear warfare, as they can just respawn after bonsai charging into enemy lines with little repercussions. While this type of gameplay can certainly be fun and does have an audience for that sort of thing, for any Napoleonic War enthusiasts out there like myself, it might be a little disappointing. And that is where Roblox Napoleonic Wars comes in, one of the few games that does morale correctly, including war rights, that allows the games to feel more historical and akin to an actual Napoleonic battle rather than Call of Duty with muskets. Keep in mind, I'm talking about realism for video games. I don't expect everything to be one-to-one to real life. In fact, that would be a crazy expectation. And so this is how Roblox Napoleonic Wars does it. At the centerpiece of its mechanics is morale, which is represented by a red meter. High morale makes your character more accurate when shooting and in melee, alongside making melee more lethal. Morale can be increased by firing volleys and shouting chants, which further incentivizes players to play historically rather than having games where nobody is coordinating anything. Morale is lowered when the character is being suppressed by enemy fire alongside being away from that unit's flag. Speaking of flags, the flags are respawn points and an item actively held by players, meaning that it can be captured by the enemy, which will cause your team to lose a larger amount of tickets and to have to respawn as a whole. A smaller amount of tickets can be lost by just dying. Whoever has the highest number of tickets at the end of the game is the one that wins. So what this means is that while there is no magic fireball that eviscerates players that go lone wolf, if you do go lone wolf, you are not only fighting with less accuracy and less melee lethality as your character is shaken, but if your unit dies because you weren't there to help them, you are also penalized in both tickets and having to respawn away from the battlefield. Next, we have company strength, which is represented by this blue meter and works in conjunction with morale. Sustained casualties will remain near the enemy for a prolonged period of time, then your company strength will lower. And to recover your company strength, you must not be attacked by the enemy or be away from the enemy's flags. So what this looks like in the game is that you literally have units of real players fighting in groups with an actual back and forth and front line. Units retreat when being overpowered, just like in a Total War game, alongside being able to regroup and counterattack. Gaps in the lines actually matter because the conditions for winning isn't just a team deathmatch. It also involves being able to break the morale of the enemy and scatter their units. And so while in other games, players have almost no incentives to fight in groups and would rather bayonet charge the enemy every life, because why not, as there is no penalty for doing so other than a short respawn timer in Napoleonic Wars, what you see in these games is an actual front line being established. You see a back and forth, skirmishes, volleys, and not that bayonet charges don't happen. I am well aware that, again, this is a video game and needs to be fun, but bayonet charges are more like the dessert, shall we say, and not the main course, which is fantastic. I wish more games emphasize actual musket volleys and skirmishes. If you study the Napoleonic Wars, major battles lasted usually the entire day, if not multiple days. Lines stretched for miles. Men fought and defended redoubts and positions for hours. Again, I keep saying it, right? But this is a video game. I don't expect a day-long battle, but it is nice that there are mechanics to allow for more of that historical back and forth. And this isn't even all the features of the game, but the gist is that when you play Roblox Napoleonic Wars, you see players actually fighting in groups. Yes, what I'm about to show is a formal event, but even in public matches, you see people gathered up in more messy groups because there are more incentives for doing so. And so in this upcoming battle I am about to show, which a big thanks to ear-splitting Ben who invited me to spectate this battle so I can see in real time how everything works, alongside a shout out to all those involved in this Napoleonic Wars event, I want to specifically showcase how this battle evolves to provide a historically authentic Napoleonic War simulation. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Roblox Napoleonic Wars, and on this side we have the French and we have the Prussians, and just for simplicity I'll refer to them as the French side, while on the other side we have the Americans and we have the British and the Spanish, and just for simplicity I'll refer to them as the British side, although I might specify units depending on what they're doing. So here's a quick peek at these units, and it looks like we're about to start. Yep, 30 seconds before we begin, and this is the event hosted by the Napoleonic Wars community for historical battles. Ear-splitting Ben reached out to me, so a big shout out to him, as well as all the people participating in this event and the event organizers. As the game is about to begin, I want to quickly add that how this works is that there are 3 servers with about 260 players in each server, so roughly 800 players are participating in this event. All 3 servers are combined so that the ticket count you see is shared between everyone. So in this game, who will I be cheering for? Well, I do like the French a lot because it is the Napoleonic Wars and you can't go wrong with choosing the French. You know what? I think I'm gonna go with the French side, alright? I trust that they have some sort of plan cooked up, you know, with the spirit of Napoleon with them. So, starting out, we already have our first volley, and I'm really wondering what the game plan is for the French and the Prussians. Remember, I do not have access to their communication, to their Discord, to their TeamSpeak, or whatever they're using, so I can only speculate on what their plan is. But, wait. So we have one French unit pushed up, but their right flank is really exposed. That's the first thing I noticed. They're way out in front of everybody else. All right, nice volley, but their right flank. Look, the Americans are firing. Their right flank is really exposed. These guys are not moving up on the right side. What is their plan? What are they cooking? Are they gonna reform and face? Oh my God, that was a devastating volley. And as I'm watching this battle, I'm gonna try not to backseat game too much, but I'm also spectating, so please understand that. I gotta do a little bit of speculating here and there, alright? This is all a part of the fun. So, forgive me, I'm not trying to say I would do a better job at commanding this than anybody else. But from what I can see here is that the French are in a little bit of a precarious position. Okay, so I see they're forming up their front lines again, which is good, but look at the left side. They're fighting the Spanish unit hiding behind some trees, so I don't know if the French are gonna win this duel. And right next to them are more Frenchmen, but they have their entire side exposed to the Spanish, so if a volley went down there, it would be pretty devastating. But I'm looking at these Frenchmen right here, and they have the worst position. I gotta say, I mean, I'm rooting for the French, but they do have the worst position. If I was the French side, I would probably send some reinforcements that help out the left flank, because if they collapse, then the entire British side has a straight shot down the side of the French side. This is just my armchair general opinion. I am not saying it would have worked, but I just want to quickly clarify what I was trying to say in game. So we see that this is the rough layout of both sides. However, notice that the French are fighting at an awkward angle and a very dangerous angle, as their left flank would be more exposed to enemy fire than they would be if they were to face the enemy head on. I have no access to what either side is saying, so just to be clear, this is a guess, but what it looks like to me is that the British side wants to force the French side to spread their forces thin or risk being encircled. There is a unit on the British side using trees as cover, meaning that if all else is equal, the side with trees to protect themselves will win a musket duel. And so the French has to either send reinforcements to their left flank to assist the lone unit fighting the lone unit behind cover and therefore leaving their right flank weakened, or allow their left flank to lose, which means that their entire line will probably collapse as the unit behind the trees can then sweep around and flank the French. But, as the saying goes, there is no such thing as a free lunch. While the British currently have the better position, the French can send a unit to wheel around and destroy the lone British unit, defeating them in detail. This lone unit is in a position where they cannot be easily supported by their allies, as their allies must fight through the French alongside traveling a good amount of distance before coming to their assistance. So, once the lone unit is disposed of, the French can regroup and launch an assault at the remaining enemy, which will now be outnumbered. Or the French can reform lines to have a more steady front line and then renew their assault. Again, this is just my armchair general opinion. So now we see the lines going into a pretty steady volley battle. And okay, so you see? Okay, so that is what they're doing. So they're sending more Prussians there, which is smart. It's very smart. Because I don't think the French were going to win that duel. But now they got some fresh troops out there, and I'm guessing the French are going to be the reserve or reinforce the right flank where the fight is more fair. And we see some British rifles all the way down the right. But I don't want to miss the battle in the middle and the left either. And it looks like it's pretty much a stalemate for now. So let's go back to the right flank. Sorry, it is lagging just a little bit. Pretty sure it's on my end because I don't think anybody else is lagging. Okay, so the French are pulling back, and it looks like they're plugging in the hole between their right and left flank, which is smart. They still have a little bit of that wedge going on, but at the same time, I don't think they're taking too many losses, especially with the Prussians still in the reserve. But it is a little bit strange how staggered they are, I gotta say. And we see the lone horseman riding around. Is that the commander? Sorry, he's a little bit teleporting right now. But just look at this battle unfold. It is crazy to think that these are all real players just duking it out. And here, I don't give enough attention to the other side, so let's zoom in a little bit. It looks like they're just both at a stalemate right now. I mean, shooting down the road. None of them have the best position. Well, I guess the Americans have a little bit more high ground, but I don't know how much of a difference that's gonna make. Look at their uniforms. It looks so cool on Roblox characters. Oh, and the Spanish look like they're moving up away from their tree. They must feel a little bit confident right now. They must feel like they can pressure the Prussians to break and then maybe sweep down their the French's left flank. Because look at these volleys being exchanged back and forth. You know, just imagine this was a Napoleonic battlefield, right? You just see like the distant fighting. It is pretty awesome to look at. And look at these British rifles. If anybody of you watch Sharp, you can't forget about those nice British green uniforms. Am I too old for saying I like watching Sharp? Do people these days even watch Sharp? Do you guys even know what I'm talking about? Whoever's watching this, do you guys know the show Sharp? It's a pretty good one with Sean Bean in it. All right, let's go back to the center where the fighting still looks pretty stable, and man, it just looks so cute just running around with their uniform in a good way. And it looks like they're pretty stable, so let's go on to the left side. Sorry for the lag, guys. Pretty, almost certainly sure it's only on my end because nobody else is lagging except for me. I just have some bad luck, I suppose. All right, sorry about that, guys. My game is tweaking right now, so I'm pretty sure it's just me. Everybody's gonna be lagging a little bit. Hey, my bad. I'm trying to keep up with the battlefield. All right, so it looks like the lines are still pretty steady, but the left flank is taking a lot of losses for the French, and they're still engaged in the middle. And it looks like they're reforming. Oh, the Spanish are breaking, or at least they're backing up a little bit. but both sides look pretty beaten. So I'm curious if anybody's gonna exploit this gap. And it's frozen again. Sorry. Here, look, I'll just skip over this segment in editing. Okay, alright. Oh my god. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. I lagged out for like a minute fucking straight. So if I missed anything, I apologize. So there's still a steady front line going. But from what I can see here on the right flank, they're engaged with the rifles, but now they've pushed past the road. And it looks like the rifles are doing, well, they just took a pretty solid volley. I'm assuming the rifles are like other games, have better accuracy, but worse at melee, right? So in a head-on confrontation like this, well, that was a good volley. But would the rifles have the advantage? Here, let me just zoom out so you can see the whole battlefield. But it looks like the entire time the French is fighting on its back foot because it's being pincered in by all the allied. Oh look, they're falling back right now. Okay, so I'm guessing that the British are now going to sweep around and hit the right side of the Prussians on the right flank. And we're fucking frozen again. Give me a second. Come on. This is taking up. Oh, okay. We are back, I hope. Wait, how are the French back again? I thought they were breaking. I lagged out, so I don't know what happened. I don't know if this is somebody else or they got the unit strength back, but it looks like the French are back now. So this, okay, the Americans are shifting over. I must have missed out on something completely because the French are renewed in strength and now the entire battlefield is shifting to the left and center flank. And it looks like the Americans are moving up. They're engaging now closer and closer to the French in the ditch. The Prussians are also fighting with the French, but it looks like they're not exactly using the ditch as cover. I don't think they can because they don't have the right positioning. And the French are backing away, and now the Prussians are all alone facing the Americans. Are they gonna back up? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if a 2v1 is a good idea for the Prussians. They're probably gonna be breaking soon. Yep. And there they go. Yeah, they're probably gonna reform the front line a little bit more to the rear. But there's one unit on the far left that's super staggered. I'll focus on the center. That way I can hopefully capture everything that's going on, right? But you see the right side engage. The center is also engaged, but they're outnumbered. The left flank is already shattering. And I don't know. I don't know how this is looking for the French. I'm not going to lie. You know, I'm rooting for the French, but I'm also not going to sugarcoat it. It ain't... I fucking froze again. Give me a second. And, okay. Oh my god. What am I looking at? Okay, we're back. Sorry. I lagged out for like another minute there. So... Oh my god. I can't believe I missed out on the entire fight for the center. Alright, so they're now engaged in a big brawl, but I don't know who overall is going to come out on top. And it looks like the British are being swept away in the center. And we're fucking frozen again. Alright, so I'm going to see if I can just restart my entire game. Just give me a moment. I just want to note that this was purely on my end. I'm pretty sure it was my internet. And not the fault of the servers or the game, since nobody else except for me in this event was lagging. I missed about 10 minutes of the battle, and I apologize for that. But there was also nothing else I could really do. Also, sorry if my camera is a little jittery, because the restart actually reset my sensitivity settings, and I didn't want to like spend any more time in the menu tweaking my sensitivity when I was already missing so much of the battle. Okay, I restarted my game. What did I miss out on? Okay, it looks like they're... Okay, whatever just happened in the 10 minutes I was gone, it looks like they're coming back to the center again. And they look... all the units look relatively fresh. So, hopefully this time, my game doesn't tweak out. Or my internet. It's definitely on my end. It's really overvalued. Let me zoom in a little bit. I haven't been doing that much just because I want to show you more like the bigger picture. But, look how cinematic this is. Look how this is exchanging volleys. Just imagine if you were like a Napoleonic soldier just standing in the middle of a formation in the middle of a battle. How fucking crazy that would have been. And you see, okay, so the other side has control of the ditch, while these guys on our left, the Prussians, are just fighting out in the open. So I don't know how this is going to work out for them, but at the same time, you know, I believe they're in their ability to shoot and give good, solid volleys. And look, they're fighting, they melee each other. Wait, sorry, my camera's so fucking sensitive. Look! It looks like they're breaking. Wait. They're breaking. The Americans are winning. Come on, Prussians, turn around and fight. Fight till the end. Okay, look, that was good. That was good. Okay, so did you see that? Did you see how the unit started running back and the guys that wanted to stay and fight just saw the unit running and they started running too? That's what I mean by morale. Like, they understand that, like, they can stay and fight, but there's no point because everybody has those else is already running away. In any other game, they would have just fought to the death because why not, right? But in this one, they understand that they need to get back information to help the, oh, good volley. But they need to get back information to help the team out. So I'm gonna zoom in right now. I don't want to shift the camera around too much because my controls are super sensitive. You see these guys in the middle fighting, right? And you see the right flank is charging up right now. So we're gonna go follow them. But just look at the melee. Look how it, oops, sorry, look at the melee. Look how it takes place. Look at how one side runs away when they start losing, and everyone starts backing up slowly as they grew, right? And you see these stragglers get cut down. Everyone else is like, fuck that, and they run away. And look, they reestablished the volley again. That's fucking cool as shit to see. That's always great to see in a game because you really do have that back and forth that I was talking about earlier. So now the front line has shifted past the houses now, and it looks like the French forces are on the back foot. Sorry, I'm gonna quickly turn down the music because all the settings reset. And I want you guys to note, ladies and gentlemen, look how far the battlefield has spread out. I mean, we have a lot of troops here on the right flank of the British, but if you look at the distance, they have one unit of British breaking. We have Prussians here engaged in a firefight, but the question is, how big can this battlefield be sustained before somebody breaks? And we already see that the French are engaged in the center, and the British on the far right flank of the French have already broken, leaving this French unit free to launch some shots at the Spanish. But why aren't they taking space? There must be some sort of communication. And I see the British coming back, but this would be a good time to you know, push up on the Spanish, give them a few shots, right? Run them off some ground and take those houses. But then again, the British are moving pretty fast, and it looks like they're already coming back to reinforce the Spanish, and the Spanish are going back to go side by side with the British, which is honestly the smart move, right? You do not want to be defeated in detail. And just sit here and admire the cinematics of this shootout going on. I really love the British uniforms, but at the same time, oh, and that was a pretty good volley. They got the colors again, but at the same time, you know, you can't go wrong with the something about the French uniforms look crispy, and something about the British uniforms look suave. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm just yapping here. But let's go back here to the Prussians fighting the Americans in a ditch. Okay, this is a pretty precarious position for the Prussians, but I don't know if this sustained firefight is a good idea for the Prussians because, yeah, I don't know how well they're gonna do against entrenched enemies. And it looks like the Americans are moving up. They are. The Americans are charged. They left their ditch, or their little roadside ditch, to charge. Are they gonna continue? Okay, more shots. I want to see what they do here. Oh, it does not look like the Americans want to give up their momentum, but they're being met with devastating musket fire. Can they make it? They're chasing them off the battlefield. Sweep in, sweep in. All right, yeah, there we go. They're getting pincer, they're getting pincer. All right, the Americans got to back off now. There's no way, there's no way, there's no way. You see that? Okay, that right there was a great example that of morale and like the melee combat in this game. You see how the Americans overextended and then they got their formation broken by getting their flank. And look, there's a countercharge. There's a countercharge by more Americans. Now both of the Prussians are breaking. This is crazy. The left flank of the French are swept all the way out the battlefield. Look how far away they are from everybody else. Look how far they're running. And the Americans are not letting up. They are chasing down the Prussians. And just look at the rest of the team. The center is all low morale. The right flank is now fighting each other. Holy shit. I can't even keep track of what's going on. Everybody's running. Everybody's fighting. Now the question though is, how will this momentum turn around? Will the French be able to defeat the British and turn this battle around in their favor? And it does not look too good for the French. I'm gonna be honest. The British rifles are kind of sweeping them right now. Okay, they pretty much lost everybody. There's like 3 people left. You might as well fight at this point. There's nobody else left. Is that the commander? In the middle of the fight. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, so the French are trying to support the troops a little bit, but at this point, I think it's too late. And here we still have the Spanish fighting and still shooting at the remaining Frenchmen. And now we see a more steady front line. I'm trying to see if the Spanish are going to volley on the French here. But it looks like the French got off a good volley on the British. Well, I don't know how many they killed. Sorry, I kind of missed that. And it looks like they're all reforming, and it looks like, oh, that was a devastating volley. I don't know if they're gonna make out this alive. And look, everybody else on the left is still fighting. They're fighting again. Look at this brawl, ladies and gentlemen. They are going at it. They are stabbing each other. They are shooting each other. Yep, it looks like the Americans have the momentum again. And now the Prussians are running. Now the question is, how far will the Americans? And it looks like they're not going to chase them that far, actually. I was going to say, are they going to chase them all the way out the battlefield? I don't know, but the entire front line has shifted. Just look at this, ladies and gentlemen. They are now fighting along the road, but now they're all the way back. I don't know how long it's been in the battle because I missed like 10 minutes of it, but look how far the battlefield has shifted from the houses that they were fighting at in the beginning. This is cool. Like in history, when you read about the Napoleonic Wars, you read about how one side who's losing momentum and suffering casualties, and honestly the losing side, I don't want to say they're losing yet, but how they would retreat for literally miles, just slowly, just like that, right? There'd be a charge, a counter charge, musket volleys, and then slowly one side would back. And look, and there we go. There's another charge by the British, and it looks like they have full strength. So I don't know how the French are going to turn out, but I'm assuming that there's some kind of game plan for the French in the middle to help them out, right? Or maybe not. Okay, well, the right flank of the French have collapsed. And it looks like the British are not going to keep pushing, so I'm going to zoom into the left flank now. And it looks like they're all heavily engaged in more musket volleys. And I want to remind everyone that's watching just to pay attention to the dynamics of how the battlefield evolves, right? This back and forth is so much nicer than just a crazy-ass mosh pit the entire game. Because it's not a team deathmatch, you know? There's some strategy involved, some maneuvering. And while I can't say exactly which side's going to win yet, I do think there's a side with a more favorable position. Panning over, I see a big-ass brawl going on. Looks like these men are once again engaged in the melee, and they're all both putting up a very good fight. It looks close, and it looks like this time the British are on the back foot. Oh, and it looks like the French have the momentum and they're running the British off the field. Finally, the French have some good moments of victory. And here we go again. Here comes the French straight down the center. It looks like they're stopping for some shots. Are they going to charge in? They did advance a lot. Are they gonna back away after this volley? I'm guessing they're gonna volley and go in, right? Just like in real life. Boom! That was a crispy volley. Now's the time, Frenchmen. Now's the time. Now's the time to defeat them, to turn this battle around. It will be huge if they can break this Spanish, because now their entire center, the entire British center, will be exposed. Sorry, my camera is tweaking. Give me a moment. Okay, it's close. I can't tell who's winning. It looks close, and it looks like the French are. It looks like the French are breaking. Okay, maybe they're not going to be able to get this momentum after all, huh? Alright, but let's move over so we can see both the left and center. And the Prussians are backing away. Okay, so that is not looking too good for the French. Yeah, they understand that they lost their centers, so there's nothing to do now but to back up even more. And at this point, where are they going to end up? I swear to God, they're approaching the boundary of the map. But like I said again, this is so cool to see how the battlefield shifts and just this back and forth. It's crazy immersive. And here we have another charge. This time, will they be stopped by musket fire? Nope, it looks like they're delivering their own volleys. And look, the Americans are pushing up too. Look at this brawl. They are all going hand to hand. It's pretty funny. You see two groups of people shooting each other and the two groups of people fighting it out with bayonets. And it looks like they're all going to be engaged in a big-ass fight now. Now, this is a critical moment, all right? They're already pushed back. Who's going to win? And it looks like once again, oh, wait. The Americans can't keep pushing because the French side has more reinforcements coming up. So now it's actually just a chaos in the battlefield. And look at all these bodies strewn across the field. So the French are now chasing after the weaker and out of formation American forces. And I think the Americans realize that they are not in the best position to fight right now. They are just running away. So the French have some of their momentum back, but at the same time, and look, they're taking devastating volleys still. What is their plan? Are they going to regroup and recharge? Okay. British rifles. Seems like they're engaged in some scattered fighting. I don't know if they want to commit. Yeah, they're not committing this because they're already pretty far back, the French. So I'm not sure if it's a good idea for them to push up that much. The battle is now approaching its critical moment, and there's 2 minutes left of this event. I want to say, hey, shout out to everyone involved in this battle, okay? I know it cannot be easy to be training with a regiment and learning how to volley fire, as well as your marching and your columns and squares and whatever else y'all train with, alright? Hey, that takes a lot of commitment, you know, and I appreciate it. So even though I've been cheering for the French side, I gotta say, everyone involved in this battle, hey, good for you. I hope you had a good time too, because I have a very fun time watching this. So now the lines have stabilized again, and the French gotta do something drastic, you know. And when I say French, I'm including everybody else in the French side. This is crazy cinematic to watch because, like I was saying earlier, Napoleonic War battlefields stretch for miles, or they can stretch for miles. And so when you zoom in and you watch the battle unfolding around you, just kind of pretend you're like an average foot soldier. I can only imagine what it's like being in this event. And then while we're looking at this individual fight going on between two units, it's fun to just like pan to the left, right? You look at these guys fighting, and then you go back to the current fight going on, and then you saw on the right side there's also a battle going on, and just it's like a movie. I wish I was zooming in more earlier, but again, I was trying to show you more of the dynamics of the battlefield. If this flank collapses right now, I don't know how either unit's gonna handle it, because I see the center fighting, right? It looks like they're doing a good job holding back the Spanish, but it's the left flank that is pushed super far back. Oh, wait a minute. They're charging. They're charging. They delivered a volley. This guy's going in for it. The other guy's reloading. He's not doing anything. He's not fighting back. He died. It looks like the French are trying something a little nutty to get their momentum back, and it looks like it's working. It looks like the Spanish are breaking. The question is, what can this lead into? Will this snowball into the defeat of the British? Look at how the battlefield's evolved, okay? We have the French chasing down the Spanish, exploiting a huge gap. Now, again, I don't want to backseat game this, but wouldn't it make more sense for the French to back up and sweep around like the rear and the flanks of the British? Would that make more sense? Okay, there's 30 seconds left of this game, so whatever the French has to do to pull through, I don't know if they can, but they got 30 seconds to do it. And I'm rooting for them, so let's go back to the center. And it looks like everybody's about to just have a big on brawl. These are the final moments of the game. Oh my, it's like, okay, now it is truly the final melee. I can't even tell who's winning. Look at this. Oh, did you just teleport? Oh my god. 2, 1, and that is the game. Man, I'm so disappointed. I missed out like 10 minutes of the battle because my computer was tweaking out, but I can't do anything about that, right? It's not my fault. It's like I asked for it to lag out. So, okay, I know it doesn't show the winner right now, but I'm pretty sure the British side won because I'm not gonna lie, the French were kind of on the back foot pretty much the entire time. So, yeah. And yep, the British won. But hey, you know what? GG's to everybody involved in this. It was very fun to watch, and even though you lost the French and the Prussians, you know what? That was a good attempt, and I hope you had fun. And so if you want to play this game yourself, well, check it out. It's free on Roblox, and I will also link the community Discord down below so that you can also join some organized events if you want to. Thank you so much for watching and making it to the end. Like and subscribe, and as usual, don't forget to drink your water, and bye.